When winter tightened its grip on Europe during World War II, soldiers learned quickly that the cold was not a background hardship. It was a killer. Long before an enemy patrol was encountered, frostbite could take fingers, hypothermia could end a march, and exposure could quietly claim lives overnight. In places like the Ardennes, the Balkans, and the Eastern Front, the ground itself seemed hostile. Yet survival did not depend solely on weapons or rations. It depended on understanding heat, air, and, well, the human body. One of the most overlooked tools that made survival possible was not a coat or a tent, but a simple insulated tube designed to work with the soldier rather than against the environment. Before we get into how this system worked and why it mattered, take a moment to support the channel. Like this video, if you value deep historical breakdowns, share it with fellow history enthusiasts, leave a comment with your thoughts or questions, and subscribe to The Hard Past for more documentary-style explorations into the harsh realities of history. Now let's get into the substance, because this system quietly saved lives in conditions that modern gear still struggles to match. Why cold killed more reliably than combat in winter campaigns? Cold weather warfare exposed a brutal truth. The human body loses heat faster than it can generate it when wind, moisture, and ground contact combine. Soldiers could be fully clothed and still freeze while sleeping. Traditional sleeping bags of the era relied on loose insulation that shifted constantly. Every movement created gaps, allowing warm air to escape and icy drafts to replace it. Once sweat or condensation soaked the insulation, heat loss accelerated dramatically. Many deaths occurred not during marches, but during rest periods when exhausted bodies could no longer regulate temperature. Military planners began to realize that warmth at rest was as critical as food or ammunition. The solution was not thicker padding, but better structure. So the wartime sleeping tube was basically a continuous insulated cylinder rather than, a flat bag. Its brilliance really lay in eliminating openings and weak points. By surrounding the body evenly, it prevented warm air from escaping whenever a soldier shifted position. Instead of fighting movement, it actually accounted for it. Soldiers would wear their standard uniforms inside the tube-stacking personal insulation with the system itself. This created a sealed microclimate where body heat circulated instead of just dissipating. This design mirrored principles seen in animal burrows and, Arctic survival methods. Heat retention improved not by adding complexity, but by reducing airflow and stabilizing insulation. The outer shell of the tube was typically made from tightly woven canvas, treated with waxes or oils. This material blocked wind and repelled snow while remaining durable under field abuse. Crucially, when the canvas absorbed moisture, its fibers swelled, becoming even more windproof. Inside, wool served as the primary insulation. Wool retained warmth, even when damp, and resisted compression better than cotton or early synthetics. Ground insulation mattered just as much as overhead protection. Soldiers place spruce boughs, straw or spare gear beneath the tube to lift themselves off frozen earth. This prevented conductive heat loss, which is, honestly, often the fastest way the body loses warmth in winter. Condensation is, well, pretty much unavoidable when a warm body rests in cold air. The genius of the tube system was that moisture condensed on the inner surface of the canvas rather than soaking clothing or insulation. This clever design kept wool layers dry and preserved their insulating properties. Dry insulation meant stable warmth through the night and, honestly, a reduced risk of frostbite in extremities. Experienced soldiers learned to vent briefly before sealing themselves in, reducing internal humidity without sacrificing heat. These small habits often made the difference between waking functional or, frankly, not waking at all. Soldiers refined the tube's effectiveness through practical field techniques. Shallow trenches reduced wind exposure. Packs placed at the feet prevented twisting and collapsing of the tube. When temperatures plunged below extreme thresholds, 2 tubes could be layered, with the inner one trapping heat and the outer one acting as a wind barrier. A poncho placed underneath blocked ground moisture more reliably than many issued tarps. These methods were not theoretical survival tricks. They were passed between units because they worked under fire, exhaustion, and brutal weather. The principles behind this system remain fully usable. A wool blanket folded lengthwise forms the inner insulation. A heavy canvas sheet acts as the outer shell. Rolled together into a cylinder, they recreate the same heat-trapping structure. Elevation from the ground remains essential, whether achieved with branches, leaves, or, even spare gear. Additional outer layers can be added in colder conditions without compromising effectiveness. What makes this system endure is that it relies on physics, not technology. No batteries fail, no zippers freeze, no synthetic fibers lose loft. It works because it respects how heat behaves. The insulated sleeping tube represents wartime ingenuity at its best. Simple materials, intelligently arranged, kept soldiers alive through some of the coldest campaigns in modern history. It reminds us that progress is not always linear, and that older solutions often solved problems with greater reliability than modern replacements. For historians, survivalists, reenactors, and outdoor enthusiasts, this knowledge is more than academic. It is practical, proven, and deeply human. It shows how ordinary people adapted under extraordinary pressure. If you value these deep dives into the hard realities of the past and the lessons they still offer today, make sure you're subscribed to The Hard Past. Share this video with anyone who appreciates history without polish or myth. Leave a comment with the next piece of forgotten gear or survival method you want explored. The past still has a lot to teach us, especially when the cold sets in.